My name is Trey and welcome back to Reload Reacts. Today we are going through r/today I messed up, where OP accidentally gas bombs his parents' house. This post is by The Flame. A little while ago in my government class, our teacher had a simulation senate and house voting process. Each person would submit 2 bills and then we would randomly draw them and vote on them. As a joke, I put in that we should grab 2 people, a man and woman, from high school from each state and put them in Wyoming for the Hunger Games. And I made it all the way to my teacher's desk, president. And what was more funny was I had to campaign about it and why we should, and I basically was just as absurd as possible and was ironically doing a Trump impression the whole time. I got it first through our simulated house with 95% of the votes, and then got it through the Senate and made it all the way to my teacher's desk. And because we thought it was funny, he passed it and I got extra credit. When a week later Trump announced the Patriot Games, where he would take 1 man and 1 woman of high school age from each state and put them in a tournament. This next post is by Salil. So I'm currently at my parents' house to avoid all that Christmas train traffic. I work a lot of night shifts, so my current sleep schedule is delayed by quite a bit. I usually go to sleep around 5 to 6 am. Well, this night I was already lying around in my bed around 4 am, but felt pretty hungry and not at all sleepy. So I decided to go downstairs into the kitchen and look for something to eat. Sadly, my scavenging hunt did not return anything that would satisfy my hunger immediately, so I decided to make myself some simple spaghetti with tomato sauce, for which they nearly had all the ingredients, with the exception of garlic. My dad loves garlic, but sadly cannot eat a fresh one since that makes him bloated and gives him stomach cramps, so they do not usually have any raw garlic in the house, unfortunately. This will be relevant later. So I decided to go downstairs and look through their cellar pantry, which is very well stocked with a lot of non-perishables. After some looking, I found some olives and a small unassuming bottle with a label that only said garlic oil, etheric with nothing else written on it. I thought to myself, jackpot! This means I have garlic for my tomato sauce. Unknowing of the horrors that small silver bottle contained. I took my finds back up to the kitchen and started preparing my tomato sauce. I diced some onions and heated the saucepan. Then I opened the bottle with the garlic oil. I tried to find some instructions of how much of it to use on the bottle, but apart from the aforementioned text there was nothing on it. I tried to smell it and was immediately greeted with an overpowering smell of garlic. I remember thinking, this is some concentrated stuff. Better use only a little bit of it. And proceeded to use maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon into the pan. As soon as the garlic oil hit the hot pan with the onions and olive oil, an overwhelming smell of garlic filled the kitchen. But sadly for my parents, my nose went blind pretty soon after, so I proceeded to continue preparing my food. I cooked some spaghetti and used some crushed tomatoes to finish my sauce. By that point, my nose was burning a little bit from all the etheric oils that were released by my unholy concoction on the stove. And I was a bit worried by that point that I'd used too much of it when I took a drink of water and it tasted like someone had squeezed 3 cloves of garlic in it. Disregarding that though, I went outside onto the balcony for a smoke break while my sauce and noodles were cooking. When I went back into the kitchen 5 minutes later, I almost fainted. It was like someone had shoved 2 cloves of freshly crushed garlic right up my nostrils. The smell of garlic was incredibly overpowering. Since I was really hungry by that point, I still proceeded to make myself a generous portion, including some freshly grated Parmigiano. I then ate about half of the plate before realizing that I did not really taste anything except garlic. By this point, my stepmom came down since the permeating stench of garlic reached through 2 doors into hers and my dad's sleeping room and woke her up. She was kind of baffled in the first place as to why the fuck I was sitting in the kitchen at 5 am in the morning, apparently cooking, and asked me how much garlic I had even used and where I found it. I innocently pointed to the small bottle standing nearby, and her eyes fell almost out of her head. Apparently, She did not even know they had another one of those bottles. My dad bought them a while ago to see if using them instead of fresh garlic would make him be able to enjoy garlic without suffering from stomach problems. She asked me to clean everything up well and air out the kitchen and tiredly went back to sleep. By that point, the worst of my hunger was sated, and I got pretty tired of eating something that just tasted like garlic, so I threw half of the noodles that I did not eat away. Same with the rest of the sauce, which I had determined to be not really eatable by this point. Then I cleaned up the pots, opened up the windows, and went to brush my teeth and then go to sleep. When I woke up today, everything my mouth chewed on just felt like I chewed on garlic. My stomach was burning and everything smelled like garlic. I went downstairs to get some water and the garlic smell continued to intensify. I found my parents sitting in a very unusual spot outside the kitchen and giving me glares of death. My dad then proceeded to explain the garlic oil I had been using was highly concentrated. 40 milliliters of it equaled 32 kilograms of freshly peeled garlic according to the website of the producer. The quarter teaspoon I had used was equal to about 5 to 8 kilograms of fresh garlic, which for all you Imperials out there is 11 to 17 pounds. So now the whole house smells incredibly nauseatingly like garlic, my clothing smells like garlic, the kitchen smells like a World War I battlefield if the Germans had used garlic gas instead of mustard gas, and my parents have not stopped glaring at me for the whole day. This next post is by Remarkable Solution. Last year, my boss asked what I did over the weekend and I said, took my little guy to the park. I was talking about my dog. Small dog, little guy. She said, "Aw, how old is he?" I said he's 4, because he is. She said, "That's such a fun age." And I go, "Yeah, he's got a lot of energy." Realizing like 2 weeks later, she thought I had a son, because she mentioned something like, "Must be hard balancing work with a 4-year-old. And I just said, "Yeah, because how do you even correct that?" It's been like almost a year now. My son is 5 according to the new timeline. She asks about him sometimes and I go, "Yeah, he's good," and try to change the subject. I've never said his name, so at least there is that. Performance review last month, she said I handled the workload well considering my responsibilities at home, and I just said thank you. I don't know what happens when she eventually wants to see a picture or asks his name. I'm in too deep. I've considered just getting a real kid at this point to keep up the ruse. Oh boy. Take your kid to work day. Bring a whole new meaning. Just pay some kid on Fiverr. Easy. Actually, no, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. Don't do that. This next post is via Zealous Ideal War. I've been talking to someone who I see frequently at my events in my community for a bit now, and I thought we had really been hitting it off. Things were subtle, but I thought I was picking up on them. Told them that I would really like to see them at an event tonight, but they ended up being called into work at last minute. I was quite upset because I wanted to see them, and they were very upset because they really wanted to go. I asked if there was anything I could do to support, and they said not unless you wanted to go to dinner with me after, haha. So I'm thinking that I'm absolutely in. We make plans to meet up after they get out, choose a restaurant, but they weren't sure when the shift would end. Everything is going great. Fast forward to the event, they end up showing up towards the end. They got out early, imagine my excitement, and everything is going great. We're hanging out with 2 of our mutual friends having a great time. A few minutes later they turn to me and say, "Hey, is it cool if I invite friends' names to tag along with us to the restaurant?" I immediately say yes, because I'm a terrible people pleaser and was already worried that I was misreading the situation. So 3 of us go out to eat. One of the friends just wanted to go home after the event. Things are fine because we all get along well together, but I'm incredibly bummed about it all and super confused about all of it the whole time. I get home and am just absolutely so confused about how I managed to read everything so wrong, and how a friend of mine who I had been telling all about all of this also read it wrong. I decided to just text them and ask WTF was going on, and if it was supposed to be a date, because how else was I supposed to read that? Here's what happened. It was supposed to be a date. They mentioned that the two of us were going to the restaurant after to one of the friends. It just so happens that this is said friend's favorite restaurant. My supposed to be date wasn't fully sure if I was looking for a date and got nervous and invited the friend to be nice. Also a severe people pleaser. We're now planning a real date and everything is fine and we're able to laugh about it. But I can't believe how much easier things would have been if I had just asked if it was a date or not. Well, hey OP, at least you communicated clearly eventually, so it wasn't really a screw up. This next post is by DJ Medina. I'm visiting China this month for work and also sightseeing. And last week I was in Shanghai for a few days. After I arrived and checked into my hotel, I walked nearby along Nanjing Road East, a popular tourist shopping street. After I had some dinner in that area, I approached at a crosswalk by two 25 to 35-year-old Chinese women who tried speaking some English with me, my native language. They were pretty friendly and said they were tourists from the city of Qingdao. As an American, they were curious about me and what I was doing in China, etc. After we talked for a few minutes, they suggested we go somewhere and chat some more to a restaurant. It seemed like really natural conversation and seemed normal to hang out and chat more, but being jet lagged, I wasn't really thinking clearly. I should have known better. I had just eaten dinner, but I told them that we can go chat while they eat. We walked for about 5 minutes and then saw a Japanese restaurant and they suggested we go inside. It was a nice looking place, but not extravagant at all. This should have been a red flag because looking back, it didn't seem like they randomly found this place by wandering around. It seemed like they knew exactly where they were going. We sat in a semi-private room on the second floor, and the younger woman suggested I sit further inside the booth, further from the room's entrance. Looking back, I think she wanted to trap me inside the small room blocked by her, so it would be tough for me to run out of there. They ordered seafood and something like hot pot. They also ordered sake to drink. I had already told them that I had eaten, so even though they made multiple attempts to convince me to eat, I didn't eat anything. Also, because I was jet lagged, I didn't really want to drink alcohol, but they were really encouraging or insisting that I drink, so I did drink a little. I do happen to really like sake. Also, this too should have been a red flag. Red flag number 2, people. It was a fun hour or so of chatting, but in the end, the waiter came with the bill and it was about 3,000 RMB, about 430 USD, or 642 for fellow Australians. That price was outrageous for a party of 3 people. The younger woman said in China, it's common for the older male to pay the bill. That may be true, but I'm also a foreign visitor who is often treated with hospitality in China. Besides, I never agreed to that, and it was extremely presumptuous of her to say that I would pay. I told her I wasn't willing to pay the whole bill, as the bill was crazy expensive and I didn't eat, and I only had a little to drink. The pressure really increased and the mood changed quickly, and the waiter was standing there waiting for me to pay. This all felt familiar because I remembered seeing some YouTube videos of this sort of scam in China in the past. I knew that if I didn't pay, from my recollection of these videos, the waiter would likely call the police or follow me to my hotel, or even rough me up. I definitely don't want to get in trouble in a foreign country, especially one like China that isn't exactly known for emphasizing human rights. I still said I wasn't willing to pay the whole bill, but would split it in half, and the woman agreed. The older woman said she would pay half the bill. In actuality, this was a scam. The women probably were not tourists, but likely live in Shanghai. They probably are friends with the restaurant owner, and this was a setup. The older woman probably didn't even pay half, but probably just didn't pay anything. After, we all left the restaurant at the same time and went outside. I felt ashamed that I fell for this scam, and I just wanted to get out of there and return to my hotel. Outside the restaurant, they said there was a liquor and cigarette store next door. They said we should drink more and I could buy them alcohol and cigarettes. I declined and started walking away, saying I was tired from travel and needed sleep. The younger woman said she wanted to see my hotel and even wanted to see my room. She even made some fun adult talk like she wanted to see an American's private parts. There was no way I was letting these scam artists in my room, and I didn't even want them to know which hotel I was staying at. I quickly walked away and got the hell out of there. I walked pretty fast and didn't look back. I don't think they followed me, or at least not for long. I felt so ashamed that night and the next day. I visited a different city in China the next day for work and met up with a couple local Chinese friends there through my work. I decided to confide in them and I told them the story. They were super reassuring and sympathized with me. Telling them about the experience made me feel a lot better. Don't let this happen to you in Asia. It's a common scam. If any stranger asks you to go inside with them somewhere, just say no. Talk and engage with locals you don't know because it can be fun and interesting. But don't go anywhere with them. Use any excuse you like. That you have other plans, or that you don't hang out with strangers, or whatever. And do not tell any strangers which hotel you're staying at. You don't want them to follow you there. Well said, OP. Stranger danger. And this doesn't just apply to Asia either. It can apply to anywhere in the world. So make sure you keep yourself safe. Don't go anywhere with strangers just because they ask you to. And make sure not to give out any personal information. This was r/today I messed up. If you liked this video, make sure to go check out some other videos on the channel. And also make sure to hit that subscribe button because I post new Reddit content every single day.